Jiho stood in his small apartment kitchen, staring at the half-cooked dinner on the stove. 5 years had passed since Mirai disappeared into the darkness of space. 5 long years of waiting, hoping, and finally accepting that she was never coming home. The officials told him the ship was destroyed near the outer rim. No survivors. Just debris floating in the endless black. He turned off the stove and sat down at the table. The empty chair across from him reminded him of better days. Days when his wife would sit there laughing about something that happened at work. Days when their daughter Hana would run around the apartment full of energy and joy. Now Hana was gone too, taken by Mirai's parents after the accident. They said Jiho worked too much, that he couldn't handle raising a 12-year-old alone. Maybe they were right. The communication device on his wrist buzzed. Jiho ignored it at first, probably just work asking him to stay late again. He was an engineer at the United Earth Space Administration, fixing ships and designing better engines. It was boring work, but it paid the bills and kept his mind busy. The device buzzed again. Then again. Jiho finally looked at it. The message made his heart stop. Emergency. Unknown vessel requesting landing clearance, asking for you by name. Come to landing zone 7 immediately. His hand shook as he read the message 3 more times. Someone was asking for him? By name, that didn't make sense. He wasn't important enough for anyone to specifically request him. Jiho grabbed his jacket and ran out the door. The landing zone was on the edge of Seoul, where massive ships came and went every day. Jiho had been there 1,000 times for work, but never like this. Never because a mysterious ship asked for him personally. Security guards stopped him at the gate, checked his identification and let him through with worried expressions on their faces. The ship is waiting on platform 3, one guard said. Sir, are you sure you don't want us to come with you? I'll be fine, Jiho replied, though he wasn't sure if that was true. He walked across the empty platform toward the ship. It wasn't like any vessel he had seen before. The hull was smooth and silver, with no visible seams or windows. Strange patterns glowed softly across its surface like breathing light. The ship was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. A door opened in the side of the ship. No ramp, no stairs. Just an opening that appeared out of nowhere. Jiho's breath caught in his throat. A girl stepped out first. She was tall, maybe 17 years old, with long dark hair and familiar eyes. She wore clothes that looked human but weren't quite right. The fabric seemed to shift colors in the light. Dad? The girl said softly. Jiho's legs almost gave out. Hana? It was impossible. Hana was 12. This girl was 17. But those eyes? Those were definitely his daughter's eyes. I know this is confusing, Hana said, walking toward him. I'll explain everything, just please don't freak out. Before Jiho could respond, another figure emerged from the ship. Mirai. His wife looked exactly as she did 5 years ago. Same smile, same way of standing with one hand on her hip, same everything. Time hadn't touched her at all. Jiho, Mirai said, and her voice broke. I'm so sorry. I wanted to come back sooner. I tried so hard to find a way home. Jiho couldn't move, couldn't speak. His mind was trying to process too much information at once. His wife was alive. His daughter was 5 years older. Nothing made sense. A third figure stepped out of the ship. This one was not human. She was tall, taller than Jiho by at least a foot. Her skin was silver, smooth and reflective like polished metal, but it moved like real skin. Her eyes were crystalline, shifting between blue and purple as the light hit them. She wore flowing robes that seemed to float around her body, and her movements were graceful in a way that seemed almost unnatural. Greetings, Jiho, the alien woman said. Her voice was strange, like music and words combined. My name is Lyra. I am a diplomat from the Velnar Collective. I have brought your family home safely. Jiho opened his mouth, but no words came out. Lyra stepped closer, studying him with those crystalline eyes. Your wife Mirai is alive because my people rescued her when her ship was destroyed. Time moves differently in deep space. For you, 5 years have passed. For them, only 6 months. 6 months, Jiho whispered. Yes, Lyra continued. And during that time I have learned much about humans. Your species is remarkable, adaptable, resilient, strong in ways my people have forgotten. Mirai reached out and took Jiho's hand. Her touch was real, warm, alive. It's really me, she said. I'm really here. Hana moved to his other side. We're both here, Dad. We're home. Jiho felt tears running down his face. He pulled both of them into a hug, holding them tight. afraid they might disappear if he let go. Lyra watched them with an expression that might have been curiosity or something else. After a moment, she spoke again. Jiho, I must tell you something important. My people have been observing humanity for many years. We have seen your wars, your struggles, your victories. We have concluded that humans possess qualities that could benefit the entire galaxy. Jiho looked up at her over Mirai's shoulder. What do you mean? I mean that I wish to propose a formal alliance between our species, Lyra said calmly. The traditional Velnar way to seal such an alliance is through marriage. Therefore, I am formally proposing marriage to you, Jiho. The world tilted. Jiho blinked. You, what? I am proposing marriage, Lyra repeated as if she was discussing the weather. This union would create a bond between humans and Velnar, demonstrating that peaceful integration is possible. It would protect your planet from those who wish to harm humanity. It would benefit both our peoples greatly. Mirai squeezed his hand. Jiho, I know this sounds crazy. Crazy? Jiho laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. An alien just proposed to me. My wife, who I thought was dead, is standing next to me. My daughter is 5 years older than she should be. Crazy doesn't even begin to cover this. Lyra tilted her head. Do you need time to consider my proposal? Yes, I need time. I need a lot of time. I need to sit down. The world went black as Jiho's body decided it had handled enough shock for one day. He fainted right there on the landing platform. The last thing he heard was Hana's voice saying, Well, that went better than I expected. Part 2. Humanity's Hidden Value. Jiho woke up in his own bed. For a moment, he thought everything had been a dream. A strange, impossible dream about aliens and marriage proposals. But when he opened his eyes, he saw Mirai sitting in a chair next to the bed, reading something on a device that definitely wasn't made on Earth. You're awake, she said with a gentle smile. You've been out for 3 hours. Jiho sat up slowly. His head hurt. So it was real. All of it. All of it, Mirai confirmed. Hana is in the kitchen making dinner. Well, trying to make dinner. The Velnar don't really cook, so she's a bit rusty. And Lyra is on her ship giving you space to process everything. Jiho rubbed his face with both hands. An alien proposed to me. Yes. My wife, who I thought was dead, is sitting next to me. Yes. And my 12-year-old daughter is now 17. Also yes. Mirai put down her device and moved to sit on the edge of the bed. I know this is overwhelming. I'm sorry we just dropped all of this on you at once. We should have prepared you better. You think? Jiho laughed, but there was no humor in it. Mirai, what is happening? Why does an alien want to marry me? What did you do out there in space? Mirai took a deep breath. I survived. That's what I did. And apparently that's a bigger deal than I realized. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Seoul glowed with lights as the sun set. When my ship was destroyed, I should have died. The explosion, the cold of space, the lack of oxygen. Everything was against me. But I managed to get into an emergency pod before the worst happened. I sent out a distress signal and waited. The Velnar found you, Jiho said. They did, but not because they were looking for me specifically. They were in the area studying something else and picked up my signal by accident. Lyra was leading the research team. Mirai turned back to face him. They saved my life, but they didn't expect me to survive the rescue. The conditions were too harsh. Most species would have died from the trauma alone. Jiho listened carefully. But I didn't die. Mirai continued. I adapted. I healed. I learned their language in weeks when it usually takes years. When their ship had a critical malfunction in hostile space, I helped fix it using materials we had on hand. The Velnar engineers were so focused on finding the perfect solution that they couldn't see the simple one right in front of them. What was the solution? Jiho asked. Duct tape and wire, Mirai said with a grin. Human ingenuity at its finest. Despite everything, Jiho smiled. After that, things kept happening, Mirai said. Small crises, problems, challenges. Every time, the Velnar would stop and analyze and debate. And every time I would just do something. I would act, I would try things. Sometimes I failed, but I would try again differently. The Velnar were fascinated by it. By what? Jiho asked. By how humans think. By how we adapt. Mirai sat back down. Jiho, the Velnar are 20,000 years old as a civilization. They've solved almost every problem they've ever faced. They're peaceful, logical, and incredibly advanced. But they're also stuck. Stuck how? They don't change anymore. They don't innovate. They don't take risks. Everything is already figured out, so there's no reason to try anything new. Their society is perfect, but it's also dying. Birth rates are dropping. People live for centuries, but don't really do anything with that time. They're so advanced that they've forgotten how to grow. Jiho was starting to understand. And then you showed up. A messy, emotional, illogical human who refused to give up no matter what. Mirai laughed. I drove them crazy at first. But Lyra saw something in how I approached problems. She started studying humans more carefully. She looked at our history, our conflicts, our achievements, and she realized something terrifying. What? That humans are dangerous. Not because we're violent or aggressive, though we can be both, but because we never stop trying. We never accept that something is impossible. We look at a problem and throw ourselves at it until we find a solution, even if it takes generations. We're adaptable in ways that other species aren't. Jiho thought about humanity's history, the wars, the exploration, the constant push to go further, do more, be better. That doesn't sound terrifying. It is when you're a species that hasn't changed in 10,000 years, Mirai said quietly. Most aliens in the galaxy are like the Velnar. They evolved to fit their environments perfectly over millions of years. They're specialized, optimized. But humans? We're generalists. We can live almost anywhere, eat almost anything, survive almost any condition. We're not the strongest or the smartest or the fastest, but we're the most stubborn. The door opened and Hana came in carrying a tray with food. Dinner is ready. I made kimchi stew. Well, I tried to make kimchi stew. Some of the ingredients are earth-based, some are Velnar substitutes, so it might taste weird. Jiho looked at his daughter. She was so much older now, taller, more mature, but still his little girl. How are you handling all of this? Hana set the tray down. Better than you, apparently. At least I didn't faint. Hana, Mirai said in a warning tone. Sorry, Dad. Hana sat on the bed next to him. It's been strange for me, too. 6 months for us felt normal until we came back and realized how much time had passed on Earth. Grandma and Grandpa must think I'm grown up now. They're going to have a lot of questions, Jiho said. Everyone is going to have questions, Hana replied. Lyra's ship has been detected by every government on Earth. They all want to know who she is and why she's here. Jiho's stomach sank. Oh no, I didn't even think about that. That's why Lyra made the marriage proposal, Mirai explained. It's not just about alliance between our species. It's about protecting Earth. Right now, other aliens are watching humanity. Some are curious, some are impressed, and some are terrified. Terrified of us? Jiho couldn't believe it. Yes, because we're unpredictable. Because we grow too fast. Because in just a few thousand years we went from caves to spaceships. Most species take millions of years to do that. Mirai's expression turned serious. There's a faction in the galaxy that wants to contain humanity before we become a threat. They want to limit our technology, restrict our expansion, maybe even control our population. Jiho felt cold. That's genocide. Not in their eyes. In their eyes, it's pest control. Mirai took his hand. But if Lyra can prove that humans can integrate peacefully with other species, that we can be partners instead of threats, it might change minds. The marriage isn't about love, Jiho. It's about politics. It's about showing the galaxy that we're not monsters. Why me? Jiho asked. I'm nobody special. I fix engines and design boring components. Why would she propose to me? Because you're exactly what the galaxy needs to see, Mirai said softly. You're not a soldier or a politician or a genius scientist. You're an ordinary person who does extraordinary things without realizing it. You raised Hana alone for years. You kept working even when your heart was broken. You survived losing me and kept going. That's just living, Jiho said weakly. Exactly, Mirai smiled. That's what makes humans special. We keep living no matter what. We keep trying. We keep hoping. The Velnar have forgotten how to do that. They've forgotten how to really live. Hana squeezed his other hand. Dad, I know this is a lot. Nobody expects you to decide right now. But you should know that Lyra is serious. She really believes that humans and Velnar can help each other. And she's not the only one. Other species are watching too. Jiho looked at both of them. His wife who survived the impossible, his daughter who grew up between two worlds, and somewhere out there, an alien woman who thought marrying him could change the galaxy. How long do I have to decide? He asked. 3 days, Mirai said. After that, the opposing faction arrives to make their own proposal to Earth's leaders. And trust me, Jiho, you won't like their proposal at all. Part 3. The Council of Worlds. The journey to the Council of Worlds took 6 hours in Lyra's ship. Jiho spent most of that time staring out a window at space, watching stars streak past in ways that shouldn't be possible according to human physics. Mirai sat beside him, pointing out interesting sights. Hana was somewhere else on the ship with Lyra, learning more about Velnar culture. That's the Helix Nebula, Mirai said, gesturing to a swirling cloud of colors. The Velnar have several research stations there. Beautiful, isn't it? Everything out here is beautiful, Jiho replied. And terrifying. You'll get used to it, will I? Jiho turned to look at his wife. Mirai, I'm not like you. You're brave. You're adaptable. I'm just an engineer who likes routine and predictability. I don't know if I can handle all of this. Mirai smiled gently. You're already handling it. You didn't run away. You didn't refuse to come. You're here, trying to understand, trying to make the right choice. That's exactly what makes you perfect for this. Before Jiho could respond, Lyra's voice came through a speaker in the wall. We are approaching the station. Prepare for arrival. The ship slowed down and Jiho got his first look at the Council of Worlds station. It was enormous, bigger than any structure he'd ever seen. The station was shaped like a ring with thousands of docking ports jutting out from its surface. Ships of every imaginable design were coming and going, some sleek and organic looking, others blocky and mechanical. How many species are there? Jiho asked in wonder. Thousands, Mirai said. Not all of them are on the council, but most send representatives to observe and trade. The ship docked smoothly, and they walked out into a massive corridor filled with aliens. Jiho had to force himself not to stare. Some looked almost human, with just slight differences. Others were completely alien, with too many limbs or eyes or body parts he couldn't even name. Colors and shapes and sizes that defied description, and they were all staring at him. Ignore them, Mirai whispered. Humans are still rare out here. They're just curious. A man was waiting for them near the entrance to the main council chamber. He was middle-aged, with short gray hair and the kind of face that had seen too much. He wore a formal suit with an Earth flag pin on his lapel. Ambassador Deho, Lyra greeted him with a small bow. Diplomat Lyra, Deho replied. Then he looked at Jiho. So you're the lucky man who got proposed to by a Velnar. Congratulations, or condolences. I haven't decided which is more appropriate yet. Thank you? Jiho said uncertainly. Deho laughed. Come on. We don't have much time before the session starts. I need to brief you on what's really going on here. They followed Deho to a private room overlooking the main council chamber. Through the glass, Jiho could see hundreds of seats arranged in a circular pattern, each occupied by a different species. The chamber itself was beautiful, with walls that seemed to shift colors and a ceiling that showed the stars above. Listen carefully, Deho said once the door was closed. Earth has been playing a dangerous game for the last 20 years. We've been proving ourselves to the galaxy, one challenge at a time. What kind of challenges? Jiho asked. Every kind. Survival tests, engineering problems, diplomatic puzzles, combat trials. Whenever someone said something was impossible, we volunteered to try. Deho pulled up a holographic display showing various human achievements. We rescued a crew from a dying ship that 3 other species said couldn't be saved. We survived on a death world for 30 days when the previous record was 5. We solved a mathematical problem that had stumped the galaxy's best minds for a century. How? Jiho was amazed. By not thinking like them, Deho said. We don't follow the rules the same way. We improvise. We take risks. We fail, learn, and try again. It drives the other species crazy, but they can't deny the results. Mirai nodded. That's what I saw with the Velnar. They would spend weeks planning the perfect solution while I would just try something and see if it worked. Exactly, Deho agreed. And that's why some species love us and others want us gone. We're disrupting the natural order of things. We're making species that have been comfortable for millennia feel uncomfortable. The Krell, Lyra said quietly. The Krell, Deho confirmed with disgust in his voice. The oldest and most powerful empire in the galaxy. They've been the dominant force for 50,000 years. They don't like change. They don't like challenges. And they definitely don't like humans. Jiho felt his stomach twist. What do they want? To contain us. To control us. To make sure we never become a threat to their power. Deho's expression was grim. In 3 days, their ambassador will present a proposal to Earth's leaders. It will sound reasonable on the surface. Safety measures. Technology sharing. Cultural exchange. But what it really means is giving up our freedom to explore, to grow, to be human. And if we refuse? Jiho asked. Then they'll blockade Earth. Cut us off from the rest of the galaxy. Maybe worse. Deho looked directly at Jiho. That's why your marriage to Lyra is so important. If the Velnar publicly support humanity through a formal alliance, other species will follow. The Krell can't ignore that kind of pressure. Jiho's head was spinning. You're saying the fate of Earth depends on whether I marry an alien I just met? No pressure, right? Deho smiled grimly. A bell sounded through the station. The council session is beginning, Lyra said. We should take our seats. The main chamber was even more impressive from the inside. Jiho sat in a section designated for Earth, with Daiho on one side and Mirai on the other. Hana sat just behind them. Lyra took her place with the Velnar delegation across the chamber. The council leader, an ancient being that looked like living stone, called the session to order. The voice echoed through the chamber in a language Jiho didn't understand, but a small device in his ear translated everything. We gather to discuss the matter of humanity, the council leader said. A young species that has drawn much attention in recent years. Some view them as promising. Others view them as problematic. Today we will hear arguments from both sides. An alien stepped forward from one section. He was tall and reptilian, with scales that gleamed like metal and eyes that showed no emotion. I am Vorak, speaking for the Krell Empire. We have observed humanity carefully. What we have seen concerns us greatly. Vorak gestured and holographic images appeared in the center of the chamber. Images of human wars, environmental damage, conflicts and violence throughout history. Humanity is unstable, irrational, violent. They destroy their own planet and each other. In just a few thousand years, they have caused more harm than most species do in millions. Some council members nodded in agreement. They are also unpredictable, Vorak continued. They take risks that endanger not just themselves but others around them. They refuse to follow established protocols. They question everything. Such behavior threatens the stability of our galactic community. More nods. Therefore, the Krell propose that humanity be placed under supervision. Their technology should be limited to prevent misuse. Their expansion into space should be controlled. Their genetics should be studied to understand and perhaps modify their aggressive tendencies. Jiho felt anger rising in his chest. They wanted to treat humans like dangerous animals that needed to be tamed. Deho stood up. Permission to respond, Council Leader. Granted. Deho walked to the center of the chamber. He didn't look angry or defensive. Instead, he was smiling. Ambassador Vorak paints an interesting picture of humanity. Let me offer a different perspective. He gestured and new images replaced the old ones. Images of human art, music, literature. Images of people helping each other after disasters. Images of scientific achievements and exploration. Yes, we've had wars. Yes, we've made mistakes. But we also create beauty. We also show compassion. We also dream of better futures. Pretty words, Vorak said dismissively. But they don't change the facts. You're right, Deho agreed. So let's talk about facts. You say we're violent? We are, you know why? Because we refuse to die. We fight to survive. We fight to protect what we love. You call it violence. We call it the will to live. The chamber was silent. You say we're irrational? We are. Because we don't let logic stop us from trying the impossible. We don't let statistics tell us what we can't do. You call it irrational. We call it hope. Deho's voice grew stronger. You say we're unpredictable, we are. Because we won't stop growing, we won't stop changing, we won't become perfect little statues that never move. You call it unpredictable, we call it freedom. He turned to face Vorak directly. You want to contain us because you're afraid. Afraid that we'll show the rest of the galaxy what they've forgotten. That growth requires risk. That progress requires failure. That being alive means being messy and chaotic and beautifully, wonderfully imperfect. Deho looked around the chamber at all the different species. I won't apologize for what humanity is. We are dangerous. We are challenging. We are uncomfortable. But we are also exactly what this galaxy needs. Because when was the last time any of you tried something truly new? When was the last time you took a real risk? When was the last time you felt truly alive? The silence stretched out. Then unexpectedly Vorak spoke. I challenge you, Ambassador Deho. If humans are so capable, prove it. I propose a trial by survival on a death world. Your champion against mine. Deho's smile grew wider. I accept. And I'll be the champion myself. The council erupted in shocked Mu Part 4. Understanding the Velnar after the council session, Lyra invited Jiho to spend time on her personal ship to better understand the Velnar. Mireille encouraged him to go, saying it would help him make his decision. Hana decided to stay with Deho to learn more about Earth's diplomatic efforts. Lyra's ship was different from the transport vessel they had used earlier. This one felt more like a home. The walls were soft colors that changed based on mood or time of day. Furniture grew from the floor when needed and disappeared when not. Everything was smooth, efficient, and beautiful. Welcome to my dwelling space, Lyra said as they entered. Please make yourself comfortable. Jiho sat on something that felt like a chair but adjusted to his body perfectly. This is amazing. How does it work? Biotechnology. The ship responds to neural patterns and physical needs. Lyra sat across from him. Would you like something to drink? I have learned to make human tea during my time with Mireille. Tea would be nice, thank you. Lyra moved to a small area that might have been a kitchen. She prepared tea with careful, precise movements. Everything she did seemed intentional and graceful. When she brought him the cup, the tea was exactly the right temperature and perfectly steeped. You're very precise, Jiho observed. All Velnar are, Lyra replied. We are taught from birth to seek perfection in all things. Efficiency, logic, beauty, control. That sounds exhausting. Lyra paused, her crystalline eyes studying him. You are the first person to ever say that to me. Most species admire our precision. They envy our control. But you're not happy with it, Jiho said. It wasn't a question. Lyra sat down again. You are perceptive. No, I'm not happy. Few Velnar are, though most would never admit it. She gestured and holographic images filled the room. Jiho saw beautiful cities with perfect architecture. Parks where every tree was exactly placed. Streets where nothing was out of order. It looked like paradise. This is Velnar Prime, our home world, Lyra explained. Population 12 billion. Crime rate 0. Poverty 0. Disease 0. We have solved every major problem a society can face. That's incredible, Jiho said. It is also empty. The images changed to show Velnar citizens going about their days. They moved with the same grace as Lyra, but their expressions were blank. Neutral. Nothing. Watch them closely, Jiho. What do you see? Jiho studied the images. People were working, talking, existing. But something was missing. They're not really living. They're just going through the motions? Exactly. Lyra dismissed the images. We have optimized life to the point where there is nothing left to strive for. Every career path is mapped out. Every hobby is mastered. Every question is answered. We live for centuries, but we accomplish nothing new. She stood and walked to a window showing the stars. Our birth rates have been declining for 5,000 years. Not because we cannot have children, but because we choose not to. Why bring new life into a world where everything has already been done? Why create children who will simply repeat what we have already perfected? Jiho felt sadness in her voice. That's why you're interested in humans. Yes. Lyra turned back to him. When I rescued Mireille, I expected her to die. The conditions were severe. Most species would have accepted their fate and passed peacefully. But Mireille fought. She struggled. She refused to give up even when logic said she should. Lyra's eyes seemed to glow brighter. And when she survived, she didn't just accept her situation. She questioned everything. She made jokes. She tried to fix things that weren't her responsibility. She cared about our crew even though they were strangers. She was so alive. Mireille has always been like that, Jiho said with a smile. I studied her. I watched how she approached problems. Where we would analyze and plan, she would simply act. Where we would seek the optimal solution, she would try anything that might work. She failed often, but she never let failure stop her. And eventually her methods saved us all. Lyra sat back down, leaning forward with intensity. That's when I began researching human history. I read about your wars and your art, your mistakes and your achievements, your capacity for both destruction and creation, and I realized something that terrified and excited me in equal measure. What? Jiho asked. That humans are what the Velnar used to be. 20,000 years ago, before we became perfect, we were like you. Messy, emotional, unpredictable, alive. Lyra's voice grew softer. We have records from that time. Our ancestors struggled and failed and tried again. They created beautiful, imperfect things. They took risks. They felt deeply. They truly lived. What happened? Jiho asked. We evolved past it. We became efficient. We removed the chaos from our society, the unpredictability from our genetics, the passion from our hearts. We thought we were becoming better. We didn't realize we were dying. Lyra pulled up more images. These showed Velnar children sitting in perfect rows, learning but not playing. Adults working but not laughing. Couples together but not touching. Look at us now. We don't create art anymore because all possible forms have been explored. We don't make music because all combinations of sound have been tried. We don't fall in love because we have algorithms to find optimal partners. That's horrible, Jiho said quietly. It is, and I didn't fully understand how horrible until I met your wife. Lyra's expression softened. Mireille told me about you. About how you met in college when you were both terrible at cooking and nearly burned down the kitchen. About how you proposed to her in the rain because you couldn't wait for better weather. About how you sing badly but loudly when you're happy. About how you cry at sad movies but pretend you're not crying. Jiho felt his face getting warm. She told you all that? She did. And I realized that those imperfect moments, those messy emotions, those spontaneous actions, that's what living truly means. That's what we lost. Lyra reached out and almost touched his hand but stopped just short. I want to learn that again. Not just for myself but for my entire species. And you think marrying me will teach you that? Jiho asked. I think forming a genuine connection with a human will begin the process, Lyra replied. The marriage is political, yes, but it is also personal. I want to understand what it means to make decisions based on feeling rather than logic, to try things without knowing if they will work, to fail and be okay with failing, to truly live instead of just existing. She finally let her hand touch his. Her skin was cool but not cold, solid but somehow soft. I do not love you, Jiho. I am not certain I know what love truly means anymore, but I am willing to learn. I am willing to try. I am willing to be imperfect with you. Jiho looked at their hands. An alien and a human. Two completely different species with completely different backgrounds. It should have been impossible. It should have been wrong, but somehow it felt right. Can I ask you something? Jiho said. Anything. If this marriage happens, what would it actually be like? Would we live together? Would we? He struggled to find the words. Lyra understood. We would create our own arrangement based on what feels right to both of us. There is no template for this. No perfect plan. We would have to figure it out as we go, making mistakes and learning from them. Does that frighten you? Yes, Jiho admitted. Everything about this frightens me. But you know what frightens me more? The idea of Earth being controlled by the Krell. The idea of humanity losing its chance to explore the galaxy. The idea of my daughter growing up in a universe that sees us as threats instead of partners. He squeezed her hand gently. And maybe I'm also frightened by the idea that I could help someone. Help an entire species remember what it means to be alive. That's a lot of pressure. You would not be alone, Lyra assured him. Mireille will be there. Hana will be there. I will be there. And gradually more Velnar and more humans will join us. This will not be just about us, Jiho. This will be about building bridges between our peoples. Mireille, Jiho said suddenly. How does she really feel about all of this? Her husband marrying someone else? Lyra smiled slightly. Perhaps you should ask her yourself. As if summoned, the door opened and Mireille walked in. I thought I'd find you two here. Making progress? Maybe, Jiho said. Mirai, I need to know. How do you really feel about this marriage proposal? Mirai came over and sat next to him. Honestly, at first I was confused and maybe a little jealous, but then I thought about it. Really thought about it. She took his other hand. This isn't about romance, Jiho. This is about survival and alliance and creating something new. And if you do marry Lyra, it doesn't mean you stop being my husband. We'll figure out how to make it work together. How? Jiho asked. I don't know, Mirai admitted with a laugh. Nobody knows. That's the exciting part. We'll make mistakes. We'll have awkward moments. We'll probably argue about things we never imagined arguing about. But we'll figure it out because that's what humans do. We adapt, Lyra nodded. And that's what I hope the Velnar can learn to do again. Jiho sat there holding hands with his wife and with an alien diplomat who wanted to marry him. It was the strangest moment of his life, but it was also somehow full of hope. I need to see Daeho's challenge first, Jiho said finally. I need to see what humanity is really up against before I make my decision. The trial is tomorrow, Lyra said. We will all witness it part 5. The Krell Ultimatum. The Death World was called Karos 5. Jiho watched through a viewing screen as the transport descended toward the planet's surface. The world was a nightmare of hostile environments. Acid rain, volcanic activity, predators that could kill in seconds, temperatures that swung from freezing to boiling. No sane person would choose to go there. Daeho had chosen to go there. He's insane, Jiho muttered. He's human, Mirai corrected with a grim smile. There's a difference. They were in an observation room with dozens of other species all watching the trial. The Krell champion, Vorak himself, had already landed on the planet. The rules were simple. Survive for 14 days. The one who lasted longest won. If both survived, the one who accomplished the most survival tasks won. Hana sat between Jiho and Lyra, her hands clenched nervously. What if he doesn't make it? Then Earth loses leverage in the negotiations, Lyra said quietly. And the Krell proposal gains strength. Jiho felt sick. One man's survival could determine humanity's future. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. But apparently this was how the galaxy worked. The viewing screen split to show both champions. Vorak moved with mechanical efficiency, immediately beginning to construct a shelter using materials from his survival pack. Every movement was calculated. Perfect. Within an hour, he had a functioning base with protection from the elements. Daeho, on the other hand, spent the first hour just walking around and looking at things. He poked at plants. He tasted the soil. He climbed a tree to get a better view. He looked like a tourist on vacation rather than someone fighting for survival. What is he doing? An alien observer asked with confusion. He's learning, Mirai said. He's understanding the environment before committing to a plan. By the end of day 1, Vorak had a perfect camp with food storage, water collection, and defensive perimeters. Daeho had a small fire and was sleeping in a cave with minimal protection. The observers began to whisper. The human was going to lose. This was proof that humanity's reputation was exaggerated. Day 2 began with acid rain. Vorak's shelter protected him completely. He didn't even get wet. Daeho got soaked. But instead of hiding, he used the rain to fill containers and observe which plants absorbed the acid and which ones dissolved. He was taking notes. He's going to die from acid exposure, a Krell observer said with satisfaction. But Daeho didn't die. He found plants that neutralized the acid and used them to create a protective paste for his skin. By the end of day 2, he had a crude but effective shelter made from acid-resistant materials he found in the environment. Vorak didn't adapt his shelter. It didn't need adaptation. It was already perfect. Day 3 brought volcanic activity. The ground shook and lava flows threatened both camps. Vorak's shelter was positioned in the safest calculated location based on geological data. Daeho's cave was not. The lava flow headed straight for Daeho. Jiho couldn't breathe. He watched as the glowing river of molten rock approached the cave. Daeho was going to be burned alive. The trial was over, but then Daeho did something unexpected. He started the lava flow on fire. That's impossible, someone said. Lava is already fire. He's not burning the lava, Mirai explained, pointing at the screen. He's burning the gases coming off the lava, creating a backdraft that's redirecting the flow. It was insane. It was dangerous. It should have killed him. It worked. The lava flow split and went around the cave. Deho sat in the entrance, covered in soot and sweat, laughing like a maniac. "Come on, is that all you've got?" he shouted at the volcano. The observers were silent. Day 4, Day 5, Day 6. The challenges kept coming. Predators, storms, poisonous air, equipment failures. Each time, Vorak handled them with perfect execution of survival protocols. Each time, Deho barely survived through improvisation and sheer stubbornness. But something was changing in how the observers watched. At first, they had admired Vorak's perfection. Now they were fascinated by Deho's chaos. His methods were messy and inefficient. But they were also creative and adaptive and somehow effective. On Day 7, Deho's fire went out during a storm. Without fire, he would freeze to death overnight. Vorak had backup heating systems. Deho had nothing, except ingenuity. He caught one of the predators that had been stalking him. Using the creature's bioluminescent organs, he created a chemical reaction that generated heat. It wasn't much, but it was enough. He spent the night huddled around his makeshift heater, singing songs to keep himself awake. "Why is he singing?" an observer asked. "Because he's scared," Jiho said, recognizing the behavior. "He sings when he's scared. It helps him stay calm." "How primitive," the Krell observer scoffed. "How human," Lyra said softly, and there was admiration in her voice. Day 8, 9, 10. Vorak was still performing perfectly. His shelter was intact. His supplies were organized. His health was optimal. He was winning by every objective measure. But Deho was doing something Vorak wasn't. He was thriving. By Day 10, Deho had mapped the local predator territories. He had identified 20 edible plants. He had created a water purification system using local materials. He had turned survival into science, learning everything he could about the hostile world around him. Vorak was surviving. Deho was adapting. Day 11 brought the worst storm yet. Winds strong enough to tear apart buildings. Rain that could strip flesh from bone. Lightning that struck constantly. Both champions had to abandon their shelters and find better protection. Vorak calculated the safest location and moved there with military precision. He found a deep crevice in rock and sealed himself inside with emergency barriers. Deho did something completely different. He climbed the tallest tree he could find and tied himself to the top. "He's going to die," the Krell observer said with certainty. "The tree will be destroyed by the storm." The tree did nearly get destroyed. It bent almost to the ground. Lightning struck nearby. Wind tore at branches. But Deho held on, moving with the tree, becoming part of its motion rather than fighting against it. And when the storm passed, he was still there, bruised, bleeding, exhausted, but alive. From his position at the top of the tree, Deho could see something Vorak couldn't from his crevice, a rescue beacon that had been activated by the storm. Not for the trial, but from a ship that had crashed on Karos 5 years ago. Deho spent Day 12 climbing down and making his way to the beacon. Inside the wreckage, he found supplies, medicine, food, advanced equipment. According to trial rules, using found resources was allowed, but Deho didn't use them for himself. He sent a message to Vorak's location, telling him about the supplies and offering to share them. The observers erupted in confusion. Why would he help his opponent? "Because that's what humans do," Mirai said with pride in her voice. "We compete, but we don't let people die when we can help them." Vorak didn't respond to the message. He had enough supplies to finish the trial. He didn't need help. Day 13. Both champions were still alive. Vorak continued his perfect survival. Deho continued his chaotic adaptation. Then, disaster. A volcanic eruption larger than any before created a lava flow that would engulf both of their positions. The trial was about to end in failure for both of them. The planet was going to win. Vorak immediately began evacuating to higher ground, calculating the best path to safety. He would survive, but he would lose all his equipment and shelter. His perfect performance would be ruined. Deho looked at the approaching lava, looked at his position, looked at the ship wreckage, and made a decision. He activated the ship's emergency systems using the last of its power to create a force barrier. Not around himself. Around Vorak's position. The barrier held back the lava long enough for Vorak to evacuate safely with all his equipment. Daeho's position was destroyed. Everything he had built was gone, but he was still alive. Barely. Day 14 arrived. The trial was over. Both champions had survived, though just barely. The galaxy waited to see who would be declared the winner. The council gathered to review the results. Vorak had survived with greater efficiency. He had maintained better health. He had preserved more resources. By all objective measures, he had performed better. But then the council leader asked a question that no one expected. Which champion learned more about Karos 5? The answer was obvious. Daeho had studied the planet, adapted to it, understood it. He had even found the crashed ship and used it to save his opponent. And which champion showed greater consideration for life beyond his own? The council leader continued. Again, the answer was clear. The trial was about survival, Vorak protested. I survived better. You survived perfectly, the council leader agreed. But Ambassador Daeho survived humanly. He struggled. He adapted. He learned, he helped. He showed us what survival means to humanity. The council leader's next words made Jiho's heart stop. The Krell have proven that their methods work. But humanity has proven something far more important. They have proven that survival is not just about existing. It is about living. It is about growing. It is about caring for others even in the harshest conditions. The human wins the trial. The chamber erupted, some in celebration, some in protest. The Krell delegation stood in fury. Vorak's voice cut through the noise. This changes nothing. The Krell Empire has prepared an official ultimatum for Earth. We will present it. Now, a holographic document appeared in the center of the Part 6. The marriage and the message. Jiho stood on the observation deck of the council station, staring out at the stars. Behind him, he could hear voices arguing about Earth's future. Diplomats shouting. Leaders debating. Everyone had an opinion about what humanity should do. But the choice wasn't theirs. It was his. You don't have to do this, Mirai said, coming to stand beside him. Yes, I do, Jiho replied. If I don't, the Krell will cage us.
Humanity will be trapped on Earth forever.
Is that what you want for Hana? For her children? For everyone? I want you to be happy, Mirai said softly. Not sacrificing yourself for politics, Jiho turned to look at his wife. Is it really a sacrifice? Lyra isn't a monster. She's not forcing me. She wants to learn what it means to be alive again. She wants to help her people remember how to feel. That's not a terrible thing to be part of. But do you want to marry her? Mirai asked the real question. Jiho thought about it. Really thought about it. I don't know. But I know I want to try. I know I want to help. And maybe that's enough to start with. Lyra appeared in the doorway. Jiho, we're running out of time. The Krell are demanding an answer. Earth's leaders are panicking. I need to know your decision. Jiho took a deep breath. I'll do it. I'll marry you. But I have one condition. Name it, Lyra said. This can't just be political. If we're going to do this, we build something real. We try to actually understand each other. We make mistakes and learn from them. We don't just pretend for the cameras. Jiho stepped closer to her. I won't be in a fake marriage, even for Earth. It has to mean something. Lyra's crystalline eyes studied him. I accept your condition. I want it to mean something as well. Then I accept your proposal, Jiho said. Let's get married and shock the galaxy. The wedding was planned for the next day. There was no time for elaborate preparations. No time for Earth's governments to debate or interfere. It had to happen quickly, before the Krell could find a way to stop it. The ceremony would be held in neutral space, on a platform specially constructed for the occasion. It would be broadcast across the entire galaxy. Thousands of species would watch. The pressure was enormous. Jiho didn't sleep that night. He sat in his quarters on Lyra's ship, thinking about everything that had happened. A week ago, he was a simple engineer living a quiet life. Now he was about to marry an alien and change the course of human history. Dad, Hana knocked and entered. Can I talk to you? Always, Jiho said, making room for her to sit. Hana sat down next to him. She looked so much older than 12, but in this moment she seemed young again. Uncertain. Are you scared? Terrified, Jiho admitted. Are you? Yes, but also excited. Is that weird? Hana leaned against him. I've lived with the Velnar for months. They're not bad people, Dad. They're just lost. Lyra is trying to help them find their way back. And maybe you can help too. What if I mess it up? Jiho asked. Then you mess it up and try again, Hana said simply. That's what humans do, right? We fail and keep going, Jiho hugged his daughter. When did you get so wise? I learned from the best, Hana smiled. The next morning arrived too quickly. Jiho put on formal clothes, a mix of Earth and Velnar styles that had been prepared for him. He looked at himself in the mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. Mirai came in to help him with the final details. You look handsome, she said. I look terrified, Jiho corrected. That too. Mirai adjusted his collar. Jiho, I want you to know something. I'm not jealous. I'm not angry. I'm proud of you. What you're doing today is brave. It's important, and I'll be right there with you through all of it. Thank you, Jiho said, his voice thick with emotion. I couldn't do this without you. The ceremony platform was beautiful. It floated in space, protected by force fields but open to the stars. Seats had been arranged for hundreds of physical attendees, with millions more watching remotely. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy were present. Jiho walked out onto the platform with Mirai on one side and Hana on the other. The crowd fell silent as they took their places. Then Lyra appeared. She was stunning. Her silver skin seemed to glow in the starlight. She wore flowing robes that shifted colors like a rainbow. But what struck Jiho most was her expression. She looked nervous, uncertain, human. They met in the center of the platform. Hello, Lyra said quietly. Hello, Jiho replied. The ceremony began with traditional Velnar rituals, ancient words in a language that sounded like music. Lyra spoke about the importance of unity, of joining two different paths into one. Her words were formal and beautiful. Then it was time for the human traditions. Jiho had chosen to speak from his heart rather than use prepared words. I stand here today not as a hero or a diplomat, Jiho began, his voice shaking slightly. I'm just a man who fixes engines and worries about his family. I'm not special. I'm not perfect. I'm just human. He looked around at all the different species watching. And that's exactly the point. Because being human means being imperfect. It means making mistakes. It means being scared but doing things anyway. It means hoping for better even when everything seems impossible. Jiho turned to Lyra. I'm marrying you today, Lyra, because I believe in what you're trying to do. You want to help your people remember how to live, how to feel, how to grow. That's not weakness. That's courage. He took her hands. Her skin was cool against his. I can't promise to be perfect. I'll mess up. I'll say the wrong things. I'll make decisions based on emotion instead of logic. But I promise to try. I promise to be honest. I promise to help you learn what it means to be beautifully, wonderfully imperfect. Lyra's eyes seemed to shimmer. And I promise to be patient with your imperfections, to learn from your mistakes, to grow with you instead of trying to fix you. The ceremony continued with the exchange of life threads. Lyra produced 2 strands of bioluminescent material, glowing softly in the darkness of space. She gave one to Jiho. In Velnar tradition, life threads represent the intertwining of futures, she explained. When we join them together, we symbolize our commitment to share our paths forward. Jiho took the thread. It was warm and seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. Together they wove the threads together. As they touched, the colors merged and created something new, something that was neither fully Velnar nor fully human, but both. The crowd watched in silence as the joined thread glowed brighter and brighter. Then Jiho did something unexpected. He pulled out a simple ring. This is a human tradition. My grandfather gave this ring to my grandmother 70 years ago. It's not fancy. It's just metal shaped into a circle. But to us it means eternal commitment. He offered it to Lyra. I know you don't have fingers like mine, but maybe you can wear it as a symbol anyway. Lyra looked at the ring with wonder. It's beautiful. She took it and placed it on a chain around her neck. I will treasure it always. The council leader stepped forward. By the authority of the Council of Worlds, I declare this union recognized and binding. Jiho of Earth and Lyra of Velnar are now joined in alliance and partnership. The crowd erupted in noise. Some cheering, some protesting. But mostly there was shock. A human and a Velnar had actually gotten married. It was real, but Jiho wasn't finished. He raised his hand for silence. I want to say something to the galaxy, he announced. The Krell have given Earth an ultimatum. Submit to their control or be isolated forever. They're offering us survival at the cost of our freedom. He looked directly at where the Krell delegation sat. We reject that offer. Humanity will not be caged. We will not submit. We will not stop growing and exploring and reaching for the stars. Vorak stood up angrily. Then you have chosen isolation. The Krell fleet will enforce the blockade. They will have to go through the Velnar first, Lyra said firmly, stepping beside Jiho. My people formally recognize Earth as an allied world under our protection. Any blockade against Earth is an act of aggression against the Velnar collective. Other species began to stand. The Meridian Union supports Earth's right to explore, one declared. The Xiphon Confederacy stands with humanity, another announced. The Twilight Assembly recognizes the Marriage Alliance, a third proclaimed. One by one, species were choosing sides. Some supported the Krell, but many more supported humanity. Vorak's expression was furious. This is not over. No, it's not, Jiho agreed. But today Earth has proven something important. We're not alone. We're not just a young species that needs to be controlled. We're partners in a larger community, and we're going to change that community for the better. He took Lyra's hand and raised it high. This marriage isn't about politics or treaties. It's about hope. Hope that different species can come together. Hope that growth is still possible. Hope that the galaxy can be more than it is today. The stars seemed to shine brighter as he spoke. So here's my message to everyone watching across the galaxy. Don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid of growth. Don't be afraid of the chaos and messiness that comes with being truly alive, because that's what makes life worth living. Jiho looked at Lyra, at Mirai, at Hana, at all the people who had supported him. Let's show them what humanity can do. Let's show them what's possible when you refuse to accept limitations. Let's show them what it means to truly live. The platform erupted in celebration. Music played. Lights danced. Species that had Nev Part 7, a new beginning 1 year had passed since the wedding that changed the galaxy. Jiho stood on a balcony overlooking Seoul, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors of orange and pink. The city looked different now. Ships from other worlds came and went regularly. Aliens walked the streets alongside humans. The old world and the new world existed together. You're thinking too much again, Lyra said, joining him on the balcony. She had learned to read his moods over the past year. Understanding human emotions was still difficult for her, but she was getting better at it. Just remembering, Jiho said. A year ago I was a simple engineer. Now look at me. Lyra stood beside him, close but not touching. They had learned each other's boundaries over time. Velnar didn't naturally seek physical contact the way humans did, but Lyra was learning to appreciate it. Sometimes she would reach for his hand. Sometimes she would lean against him. Small gestures that meant everything. You are still a simple engineer, Lyra observed. You spend half your time at the Space Administration fixing ships, and the other half being dragged to diplomatic functions, Jiho added with a smile. Never thought I'd have to learn proper etiquette for 17 different species. You learned it badly, Lyra said, but there was warmth in her voice. You insulted the Krygon ambassador by offering him the wrong food. How was I supposed to know they consider vegetables an insult? Jiho laughed. But he forgave me. That's the beautiful thing about being human. People expect us to mess up, so when we do, it's just Tuesday. Lyra made a sound that might have been a laugh. She was learning to find humor in things. It was a slow process, but she was trying. Mirai called earlier. She says the exploration mission is going well. Good. She's always happiest when she's discovering something new. Jiho felt a pang of missing his first wife, but it was a gentle ache now rather than a sharp pain. Mirai led mixed crews of humans and aliens on exploration missions. She was becoming famous across the galaxy for her ability to survive anything. Do you regret it? Lyra asked suddenly. The marriage, this life. All the changes, Jiho considered the question. No. It's been strange and difficult and sometimes overwhelming. But regret? No. He turned to look at her. In the fading sunlight, her silver skin seemed to glow from within. Over the past year, he had learned to read her expressions. The slight tilt of her head meant curiosity. The way her eyes shifted colors indicated her emotional state. The small movements of her hands showed when she was uncertain. What about you? Jiho asked. Do you regret proposing to a messy human? You are very messy, Lyra agreed. You leave things everywhere. You make decisions on impulse. You feel too much about everything. You cry during sad movies. That was one time, Jiho protested, and that movie was very sad. You cried during a comedy last week. It was a beautiful comedy. The friendship between the characters was moving. Lyra's eyes shifted to a warm purple color. Jiho had learned that meant she was feeling affection. But no, I do not regret it. You have taught me so much about living, about feeling, about being imperfect and accepting that imperfection. She reached out and took his hand. The gesture was smoother now, more natural. I have laughed this year, Jiho. Real laughter, not the polite acknowledgement that Velnar call humor. I have been angry. I have been frustrated. I have been confused and uncertain and worried. And all of those feelings, even the difficult ones, make me feel more alive than I have in centuries. That's good, Jiho said, squeezing her hand gently. Though maybe we could work on reducing the frustration part. I'll try to remember to put my shoes away. I would appreciate that. They stood together in comfortable silence for a while. This was something else they had learned. That silence could be peaceful rather than awkward. That being together didn't require constant communication. The door opened and Hana came out carrying a tablet. Dad, Lyra, you need to see this. The reports from Velnar Prime just came in. Jiho took the tablet and read through the information. His eyes widened. Is this accurate? Verified by multiple sources, Hana confirmed. She was 18 now, studying at a new academy that combined human and alien educational methods. She had grown into a confident young woman who moved easily between both worlds. The report showed significant changes on Velnar Prime over the past year. Birth rates were increasing for the first time in 5,000 years. New art galleries were opening. Music compositions were being created. Innovation labs were developing original technologies. Young Velnar were questioning old traditions and trying new approaches to life. They're waking up, Lyra whispered, reading over his shoulder. My people are truly waking up. It's not just the Velnar, Hana said, scrolling through more reports. 17 other species have reported similar cultural shifts. People are taking risks again, trying new things, creating art. The galaxy is changing. Because we showed them it was possible, Jiho said with wonder. No, Lyra corrected, because you showed them what they had forgotten. That growth requires risk. That life requires change. That perfection is another word for death. Hana grinned. Speaking of change, I have news. I've been accepted into the Joint Exploration Program. I'll be on a ship with mixed crews traveling to unexplored regions. Jiho felt his heart clench. You're leaving. Just for 2 years, Hana assured him. And you know me, Dad. I need to see what's out there. Mom's been sending me messages about all the amazing things she's discovered. I want to experience that too. Lyra placed a hand on Jiho's shoulder. Let her go. She is human. She needs to explore. I know, Jiho said, pulling Hana into a hug. I'm just not ready to let my little girl fly away to the stars. I'm not little anymore, Dad. And you'll be too busy with your own work to miss me much. Hana hugged him back. Besides, I'll send messages every week. Maybe more if I find something really cool. After Hana went back inside, Jiho leaned against the balcony railing. Everyone is growing.